everyone. We asked you your names and where you're from, but let's introduce ourselves as well. So, I am Hanan, I'm from Belgium, and I am the host of today's webinar. And I'm glad to have with me LEILA Maidane, founder and CEO of Big Raider, and a lot of other things that I'll mention and that she'll talk about as well. And we are very glad to welcome you to this female leadership series organized by EIT Women and EIT Health Innovators community. So, a bit of a background information on those two nonprofit organizations. So, the Innovators community is the community of innovators that are dedicated to improving the quality of life, active aging, and healthcare across Europe. And basically, the community is there to support the innovators towards this mission. And the EIT Women community is the network that activates the power of women when it comes to European innovation, entrepreneurship, and technology. And the objective is to drive positive changes in the topic of gender equality. A bit more detail when it comes to the EIT Health Innovators community. So you might have heard the word EIT Health alumni last year. Well, we are glad to announce that a few months ago we changed branding and now we became the EIT Health Innovators community. And basically, who are the people that are in this organization? We are people that have followed courses, followed acceleration programs from EIT Health. And EIT Health is part of the whole EIT ecosystem, meaning the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, which is the European body, so financed by the European Union to strengthen innovation and technology in Europe. And EIT Health is one of the 5 communities. You can see the other ones on the screen. EIT Digital, there's climate, energy, raw materials, and as I said, health. And why am I in this community and what do we do and what do we benefit from? If you join this community, you get to benefit from 4 main things. The first one is you get to learn from experts, for example, in this kind of webinar, but also other kind of trainings that are published in our platform. Second is you get to network with more than 3,000 members already, all interested in health and in your niche topics, whether it is digital health or other. The third thing that you can do, and a lot of my friends have, is get hired, find a job through the job platform that we have. And what you get is specific job when it comes to health and digital health, for example, as mentioned. And if you are at a phase in your life where you want to give back and want to be a mentor, there's also an opportunity for that as well. That was a bit for what we do at EIT Health Innovators community. And when it comes to EIT Women, as I said, we're a community that drives positive changes in the topic of gender equality. And what are our drivers? What do we see? So what we want is to close the gaps when it comes to leadership, pay, and investment. When it comes to leadership, we saw that managers in the EU are twice more likely to be male than female. And in major public listed EU companies, only 6% of the CEO positions are held by women. When it comes to the pay gap, women make on average about 80 cents for every dollar that a man makes. And when it comes to the investment gap, it's even worse. Only 2% of capital invested go to women. These figures are staggering, and we want to be able to do something about it. And how do we want to contribute to closing those gaps? It's mainly through 3 things: mentorship programs, upskilling and networking events, and ambassador programs. So, as the names say themselves, the mentorship program, you get mentored by experienced women from the Women EIT network when it comes to your professional career and to your professional development and advancement. When it comes to upskilling, you get to attend webinars, just as this one, for example, live events to get inspired and learn. And if you are at a phase where you have learned, you get inspired, but you also want to contribute and be a leader, you can also take the opportunity to become a local leader in your community. So that was a bit for the explanation behind the webinar and our two organizations. And now I'm really glad to officially start this webinar called Shattering the Glass Ceiling: Lessons from Pioneers. And I'm glad to welcome LEILA MAIDANE. And before giving a bit of background about her, I would love to just quickly get a word about how this session would go. So we would now go into a webinar led by LEILA for 30-40 minutes, but then there will be a Q&A session. So please, while she's presenting and talking, do not hesitate to write your question down in the little chat on the right, where we asked you already to present yourself and where you're from, so that I can take them during the Q&A session, and yeah, you'll be able to get your questions answered. And if you still want to hang out with us a little bit more, there will be, by the end of the webinar, little chat rooms that will be created to discuss about the webinar, but also, if you're interested, discuss on how to get more involved in the community. So, LEILA, why did I choose to invite her to this webinar? So LEILA is one of the women that I admire when it comes to female entrepreneurship. She has founded Femmes Fières in 2017, an organization to empower women entrepreneurs to shape the future thanks to technology. But she didn't stop there. 3 years later, she founded Be Greater, a tech startup that develops innovative solutions to facilitate people that need to transition from education to work. But she didn't stop there as well. On top of that, she's a board member for various organizations and also is contributing to European policy through, for example, the WeGate thematic group on digital and green transition for women entrepreneurship. And I just saw it this morning. Congratulations, LEILA. I saw you just finished writing your first policy paper. So really looking forward to hearing more about that as well later on. So this was a bit my own introduction of you, LEILA, but please take the floor. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your story, how you shattered the glass ceiling, and how we can do that as well.
Well, thank you so much, Hanan, for such a great presentation. I think I should hire you as a PR assistant to support me. I'm super excited to be here with all of you today. Thank you so much for the invitation. As you said, I didn't stop and I will not stop. I have so much energy to keep on going, like places where people sometimes are scared and worried to go. And today I'm super happy to be here to talk about this topic of glass ceiling, this topic of recruitment, HR, because it's all impacting us in a way. So I wasn't sure who was actually part of the session today. So the objective for me here is first of all to better understand who's there, because I can see we have some PhD students, I can see we have some CEOs and everything. So we'll be glad to first hear about how you are doing. So I will launch a first poll before I can share my screen maybe and tell you more about myself and everything that we're doing. So I will publish a first poll. Everyone, if you can just tell us like how you're feeling today. Normally on your right side, you should have the poll that actually is visible to you. Just answer. I put some options. I hope that at least we have an options for everyone. So yeah, if you mention more like ugh means like it's not going to fine at all. So awesome is the best in terms of the scale, and then ugh is like not good at all. And then in the middle you have like some options. Okay, we have a majority of awesome. Ooh, awesome and okay. All right, all right, all right. Wow, we are more on the positive side. Awesome and okay. Great. Okay. Awesome is going down. No, people keep on being awesome. Okay. So
That's
we
the
have a mix
spirit.
between, yep, awesome, okay, and long day and week. So no ugh, which is amazing.
Mm.
Okay. So that was the first poll for me. So now I can actually touch the water. We have only half an hour. There's a lot of things to discuss in half an hour. I'll try to, give you a bit of introduction about the context of the situation that we are facing right now with the statistic that Hanan has shown. I'll go through the bias in the workplace and then some solutions that I can give to everyone. Please, if there is like one specific questions that you have, we're here to actually discuss, we're here to talk, we're here to find solutions together. So don't hesitate to just shoot questions, as Hanan mentioned. We don't need to follow the deck, okay? That's not the objective here. The objective is really to discuss and to share ideas of how we can actually counter the situation that we're all facing in companies. So I'll kick off. But before I kick off, actually, I will launch a poll in a couple of minutes just to see if we have more employees, entrepreneurs, academics. It will help me out in also filtering some part of the deck if necessary. Okay, I don't want to bore you with content that don't understand you, that don't concern you, of course. All right, let's do this. If you all are ready. So you said already a lot, Hanan. So I will just quickly complete. So indeed, I've launched a couple of initiatives, but my background is actually in consulting in recruitment. I've launched my first venture when I was 17. I wanted to support kids in my area who actually didn't have sufficient funds to attend sports classes. So the idea was to actually find a spot where they could go and just pay €1 per sport class that they would attend. So that was I would say, my introduction in the entrepreneurial journey. But I was not confident enough to really say, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I have no entrepreneur in my family, so I didn't know that it was something that I actually liked. So I started my career in accounting, and then I did recruitment. Then I worked for major consulting firms as a digital transformation consultant for 5 years. And then that's when I decided to actually leave the corporate world and start having more impact directly through communities and using the solutions that Hanan has mentioned. So today I'm 31 years old. I'm born in Brussels. I have Belgian, Croatian, and Moroccan roots. Thank you to my parents, even though I don't speak Arabic or Croatian, but still, it looks nice on paper. I had the chance and the honor to be awarded Top 50 Women in Tech in 2022 in Belgium. So that also has supported me a lot, and also giving light to others and to others' initiatives, and providing some support as well to women who have also launched some initiatives and bridging the gap for women in this digital transition. That's really my focus. So today, as Hanan mentioned, I'm the founder, and I'm full-time busy with Big Reader, with Femme Fière, with this full objective to prepare the citizens and companies in this transition to a more digitalized, ethical, and objective labor market. That's my goal. So it comes with programs for students to make sure that they have the right skills to enter the market. It comes with an application for companies to actually have an ethical label to back up their recruitment and the objectivity and neutrality of the recruitment process. It comes up with trainings for entrepreneurs and training programs for entrepreneurs as well. So this is what I do. This is my mission. I'm a deep believer, and I will actually go to the next slide to show you what I deeply believe in. But I'm a deep believer that everything starts with having the right skills to get a job. So for me, this is what true freedom is. And if we want to actually make sure that we are, active change makers, we need to start with financial autonomy, and it comes through work, which comes through skills, which come from education. So that's a bit of my focus. Enough about me. That's behind us. Today, I'm going to talk about three stuff. First thing is a bit of history and context. I have a couple of slides, but I'll try to shorten. I still think that it's important to have some numbers in mind and some history and context in mind. We'll tackle the bias in the workplace, and then we'll talk about the solutions. So if you're all ready, let's go. We'll start. Okay, so if we talk about history and context, well, let's talk about stereotypes first, because obviously this is where it all comes from. Who has heard here, and please put in the chat if you feel concerned, you're a good girl if you can take care of your household, boys are better at math and science than girls, and women are weaker and more emotional. Oh. Obviously, I disagree with this statement, but this statement has impacted me when I was a kid. Quick story. I was a big fan of tech when I was a kid. And then, with age, you're supposed to actually contribute to the household. I have one little sister. My mother actually divorced my dad. My mother is a nurse, so she didn't have a lot of money, etc. So I had to support her at home, and the recognition that I was receiving and the rewards that she was giving me was coming from the fact that I take care of the house. I took care of my sister. The house was clean, every single thing. It didn't come from the fact that I was super, interested in technology, and I was actually quite good at it. So at some point when, you're a kid and you grow up and the expectations come from some, like something, then you will target this so you can get the reward from this, and you slightly drifting away from your passion. So this is what happened. As a consequence of these facts, then we can see from a very young age, from education, that less women are pursuing careers in science. Less women are pursuing careers in STEM. I'll talk a lot about STEM today because it's also part of the innovator, the EIT program. So I thought to focus on this, but it has direct consequences in what we pursue for ourselves, in what we believe we can do, and in the aspiration that we will have. So if from a very young age you are actually drifting away from technology and from science, and you actually believe in these stereotypes, it has been shown, statistics has been shown that from kindergarten, this has already an impact. And the way you see yourself will actually reflect in the studies that you will pursue. So if you look at this graph, you can see that there is a majority of Occidental countries, Western countries, where the number of women who actually sign up in STEM education is super low. So look at the graph, is less than 21%. However, if we look at other countries, because I have the chance to also talk to people from Middle East and African countries, it is completely the opposite. So in developing countries, women are super present. So it also gives you an idea of the fact that stereotypes might also come from the Western countries and the Western society. If you look at movies, for instance, you will find in a lot of Middle Eastern movies women who actually are badass in technology and science. However, if you look at movies from Hollywood, it's very rare that you will see a female scientist or a female a techie hacker, etc. It's mainly like the same figures, white male. So it also has a direct impact the way the thing that we're not having role models from a very young age in our countries, while in other countries where it's not the same, they have a higher rate of education of female education in STEM. So first thing, it starts from education. Women are not registering in these fields. They're more prominent, and we will check that later, but they're more prominent in personal health care, care worker, education, etc., etc. Brief history about the women in the workplace. So in 19th century, actually, women started to work. Actually, they have always been working, but more in the private ecosystem in the household. They were not going out except in the farms. And then slowly but surely, with the fact that there were wars, they were the society needed more people in general to be available, so women were there and were available, and still you had some talent in their hands that could be leveraged by these companies and these people. So at some point, women started to go out of the private sphere and start to actually be more present in the public sphere, going through places where we would not truly see them before, and starting earning wages, because at first all the work that they were doing were obviously work that was done for free. So then in until 1870, we saw the rise of early social protection scheme, unions, etc. And then some question happened, okay, what about women? What about children? What kind of social protection law should we actually put in? So in some countries rather than others, you had, innovation, you had, I would say, avant-garde people who were there to put in some laws, but not in every country. So we saw from the very beginning that some countries were most advanced than others. While in Norway, for instance, they achieved formal equality by the late of 1870s. In France, for instance, you still needed to actually work quite late, and you still needed to actually work with your husband consent until quite a while. So there were already discrepancies between the different European countries. However, in 1951, this is when the first conventions for equal remuneration, I'm going to make it, came into play. And then in 1957, you must know about the Treaty of Rome that was signed. But despite the fact that it was signed, there were still some very specific, I would say, not specific doubts, but there were some doubts about the actual meaning of what is same, what is the same job, what is the same skills. Like everything is a bit blurry around this area. So people tend to actually use this Treaty of Rome, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a less good way, I would say. And they needed some clarification at some point to make sure that this Treaty of Rome would actually be reinforced locally within each of the European countries, and then the same equal pay would actually be the first priority for everyone. In 1975, the Council of Europe adopted also this principle of equal pay for women. But still in 2018, we can still see that on average, as Hanan mentioned, because she has more recent numbers, there's still obviously a gap that is existing. So it clearly shows that these treaties and everything still need to be reinforced at some point. So this is kind of the history in terms of rights and everything, and the history of women in the workplace as well. But it also and certainly shows us that all the focus, like until today, was more on responding to women's aspiration, was less, sorry, on responding to women's aspiration, and more on reinforcing their participation in the labor market. So it was less about what we want, it was more about securing the fact that we should have, clear hours, because we need to still to take care of the kids at home. We needed to talk about like these parental holidays, etc., etc. It was more to actually build a framework around this, rather than ensuring that we will receive a push in the labor market to actually rise and excel. So, next slide. As of now, what we can see is that because of these stereotypes, the studies that we choose, and the actual laws that protects us, as of today, we see that in terms of occupation and the percentage of women in each occupation, and I'm sorry, it's a bit small, but the top occupation for women right now is personal care worker, and one of the bottom one is actually occupations within the science, engineering professions, and in the information and communication technology. So everything, sorry, around STEM is still at the bottom, while education, personal care workers, etc., are more on top. Which, of course, it's not a problem. The issue is that it's, of course, the low-income sectors where women are more predominant, and that has a consequence directly on their daily lives, on the autonomy that we talked about, on the freedom. And if you think about the COVID-19 for 1 second, every consequence, I would say, that was related to work most affected women than men, because of the predominance in the low income occupation. So it still has a direct impact, and it's very important to actually acknowledge the fact that women are still present in the workspace, but in in occupations where the feeling attribute and the emotional attribute that we talked earlier is more valued. I'm looking at the time as well, and trying to make sure that we have time to cover everything. So yeah, let's skip that slide with some statistics. I will send the slide to Hanan so she can actually send to everybody as well. So if there is something specific that you want to see later on, you will receive the slides. But as of today, in management, if you talk specifically about leadership, only 2 women out of 10 are executive. It's nothing. We see a rise in management, but not in executive level and not at the CEO level. I saw that somebody here is a CEO. Well, you actually one of, I think, 7%. You're within the 7% of CEOs in Europe, so congrats. But yeah, we still can see that there is a gap in salary. There is a gap in the higher management in executive position, which is a big issue. Bias in the workplace. I put a sentence here for reflection to introduce the next part. So we saw the stereotypes, we saw the consequence of stereotypes, we saw where women would actually see themselves and what kind of studies they would pursue, what kind of job they would pursue because of the way they look at themselves and they see their abilities. I put a sentence that says there is no glass ceilings for women, there are glass ceilings for personalities. I don't know what you think about it. I would love to discuss about it because this is from my experience what I've seen so far. If you take some example of very strong women who are in management, the management level in the board, you will see that they are very masculine. And if I need to reflect about my experience when I was a consultant, I noticed a bit later that I took some more masculine threat to climb up the ladder. And it's only after that I realized, okay, so does it mean that if I'm more feminine or if I'm more like, if I show more empathy, does it mean that I might actually face some, some doors in front of me, or is it not linked? And I had to reflect on this. And even if you look beyond the gender, try to look at, some male figures that you have in your entourage, compare the personalities, and look at the occupations and the level of occupations that they actually have. And it seems that for some reason, there is, and I'll maybe pass this slide, I will show you this slide first. There is this paradigm of feeling versus thinking. We tend in the company to categorize profit, performance, and success. We tend to link it to the thinking aspect. And the thinking aspect in personalities, if you know about the Myers-Briggs personalities, it's true that more male are showing this threat than female. Female for most of us. Of course, not everybody is the same, and I will actually kill people who say the opposite. We still tend to actually, a higher number of us are showing this feeling threat rather than thinking one. As a consequence, if you look at the way we actually talk about skills, you have the soft skills and the hard skills. We have 2 categories in companies in every single job. But why do we call it soft and why do we call it hard? Does that mean that emotional intelligence is less valued? Well, maybe it's actually true in companies. Maybe if we think about profitability, if we think about capitalism, it's actually linked more to hard skills. We will expect more hard skills to give us a better profitability than soft skills. Even though, and I will go back one slide, even though emotional intelligence is slowly taking its place into the workplace. Slowly, we are focusing more on these soft skills. I will call it human skills because I don't think there is soft or hard. It's just technical versus human. But these human skills are more and more valued. Why? Because there is this talent shortage and war for talent. So we know that at some point, if we want to keep on being attractive for our customers, if we want to be attractive for the new generation, which is very concerned about everything that's been happening in the world and all this social impact and all this crisis, we need to talk to them as humans. So we need to use our emotional intelligence. But yet, this emotional intelligence will bring you to a certain level. Middle management will tolerate this. But if you want to actually climb the ladder from the middle management to top management, this is where your emotional intelligence will not be as valued as the more thinking, as the other intelligence, which is just called intelligence, actually. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So in terms of the the percentage and statistic in the functions that women are actually pursuing within the company, we can see that they are predominant in the HR and in the marketing department. So it follows what I've just explained regarding the feeling and thinking. We will tend to promote women more in departments where we are relying on the emotional intelligence to bring us performance. And marketing and HR is about interacting with people. You need to, show this empathy to actually make sure that your employees are feeling happy and that they will stay and you can retain them in the company. Marketing is the same thing. You need to talk to people outside of your company, but it's the same thing. We will expect you to have the best campaign and storytelling ever, and which will bring in return new clients because you will touch their heart. In marketing, if there's something that is known for sure, is that you win a customer by touching their heart, not their head. So you will use your empathy and emotional intelligence. So we see a predominance of women in HR and in marketing, and then in other sectors like technology, finance, operations, etc., etc. I'm just gonna go through this graph for 1 second. Here we can see in different countries in Europe. I'm sorry for our people here from America. I focused for this graph on Europe, but you can see per countries which countries are performing better than other when it comes to women in management. But if you look at the numbers, in 2019, by the end of 2019, we counted in Europe around 9.5 millions of people who were managers. Out of this, 6.2 million were men and only 3 were women. So it's only 30% of the workforce, which is again probably linked to what we just actually saw regarding the soft skills versus hard skills, the personality where the feeling trait is coming up, or the thinking trait is coming up. So that is also our issue, because for men in general, well, because of the stereotypes and this bias, then they will see you with your gender as a woman, and they will directly associate the feeling aspect. So the gender doesn't play a direct impact, a direct consequence. It's an indirect consequence of the stereotype that we have this battle between feeling and thinking, and that women are more on the feeling side and men are more on the thinking side. I'm talking a bit fast, I know, so please do let me know if there is anything at some point that need more explanation, more time, you want to actually discuss about it. Please let me know, because I don't see any reaction. Okay, and actually I'm saying like women are stronger because they are emotional, same bias. I definitely agree, but that is something new today. It's not something that were actually accepted a couple of years ago. So that's also something that we bring into the new narrative, and that we are value. But as I said, it's value until a certain level. If you still want to climb climb the ladder to top management, the board, etc., then at some point these emotions will show instability, and instability is never good for business. It's the same with your periods. I mean, who has actually heard over here that because you actually had your period, then sometimes a decision should be doubted? I've heard it in the past. I've heard it as a consultant. I've heard it as a CEO. I've heard it as a board member, and I'm done with this. So, so if you've heard it as well, let's say stop, no more, no more. All right, and thank you, Anna. Thank you so much. I'm enjoying this as well, even though I can't see you, which is a pity, but I'm sure we'll be able to connect in the coming minutes. Okay, so we've covered the bias, we've covered the stereotypes, we've covered the impact and the role of emotions, of our empathy or given empathy. But let's just look at some figures. If you take Angela Merkel, for instance, they show more masculine traits than feminine one. Let's talk another CEO, for instance. Let's talk about Ilham Kadri. Ilham Kadri, for those who know, she's the new CEO of Solvay, one of the biggest pharmaceutical company. Well, same thing. She seems cold from the outside, and it's also valued. So you see, and I think it's the same for men. To be honest with you, I've rarely see on the top management a man that shows a lot of empathy, a man that shows like this, this figure of being, like very focused on finding solutions, on being this mediator. We do not, well, when I say we, is society in general, does not value when it comes to the CEO position does not value someone who will try to find a mediation. They will value someone who will fight and who will negotiate the best rate, the best interest, etc. So also it's the same thing in the paradigm. Okay, Vanessa, let me just look at your comment. I have been criticized for being too fact-based. Maybe another question, how to evaluate and deal with criticism. Indeed, that's something that we can tackle in a couple of slides, but definitely I would love to hear about it. In this slide, I wanted to quickly mention something regarding the kind of solutions that are being proposed by society or politics, etc. Right now, the solution proposed are reactive, not proactive. If we go back to my first slides, when I show that, actually the regulations and the policy are more focused on reinforcing the framework of our presence in the job market, is the same for the solution. Why are we actually proposing quotas? Quotas, even though it's necessary, this is how I see quotas. I see quotas as a medication for a sick society. So it means that once we're not sick anymore, we will not need them anymore. But I can see that the solutions that are being proposed right now are always solutions that are reactive, that are in response of something that should actually be resolved. It's never being proactive. So the consequences of quotas, for instance, that I have gone through is, well, I have my seat at the table now, but nobody listens to me. So are quota right? I think there's a lot of debates. I'm voting for quotas, I'm pro quotas, but it's something that I need also people to understand in the political sphere where I have the opportunity to talk, is that to me, it does not actually reinforce inclusion. It reinforces only diversity, which is a matter of number. It's not a matter of the actual place that I have and the voice that I have and the decision making and my implication in the decision making process. So instead of bringing a skill-based approach, which will actually make sure that in the long run, it will have a positive impact, we're focusing on the short term and things that are necessary right now. So yeah, in this proactivity, I think that we also have a lot that needs to be done and a lot of switch in the mindsets of people who are actually installing these suggestions and these regulations. So let's go to the last part, the one that I actually was keen to give is how can we drive the change? I put this small sentence as well, but it's also something that we can hear, like, or men, they are go-getters, they don't wait to get what they want, they go for it, they take it. Well, I'm sorry for the surprise, but women too. We're not here to wait. We are here to actually take what belongs to us and what we deserve. So instead of just like, looking from the outside and, say like, oh, how do they do this? Well, let them know from today, let everyone know that actually we here to take what's ours. And what's ours is this equity, is this neutrality in assessments that are being done in companies, neutrality in the decision process that is being actually impacting us from being able to get a job or a promotion. I see here, Vanessa, as a CEO, I don't know if you already raised some funds, but it's the same situation that we are facing when we are in front of an investment panel where we'll be, judged. I think not more harsher, but will be judged in a different way and being assessed in a different way than our male counterparts and male CEO. And we can see it in statistics in the number of millions of euros that have been invested in female-led companies versus male. So it's time to drive the change. But in a company, when do we have this possibility, actually, this opportunity, this openness to drive this change? I've listed 3 key moments in the employee journey that are moments where you can negotiate, where you can actually like impose yourself. But these moments, from what I saw, is that they're not woman friendly. It's not made for us to stand out. So let's take the first step. The first step, when you're going to actually apply for a job, you have this job application. First thing, maybe you will find in that job application some names, like we're looking for our next rock star, we're looking for our next rocket, whatever, astronaut, whatever. I don't know about you, but when I see this, I'm like, I don't consider myself myself as an astronaut personally, but I mean, it has direct implication. Okay, it has direct implication in the fact that we will be able to actually relate or not relate to the job that is being actually offered. It has implication as well in the fact that if we do not meet all the criterias, and you have a long list of criteria, like for instance, and I've already seen that in my recruitment journey. They're looking for a junior graduate, but they're looking for a junior graduate with like a master degree, 4 years of experience, and this experience, and this, and this, and this. And at some point, it shows that women will only apply if they meet 100% of the criteria. For men, they only need 40%. So even though they don't know anything, they still apply. So first thing is not made for us to stand out. Second aspect of the job application, the fact that ATS, so this applicant tracking system, is a system that HR are using to actually receive all the application and already filter to know who they want to actually interview or not. ATS work with keywords. So if you don't have the right keyword in your CV, you will never be found by the recruiters. Your CV will never go on top. So keywords also is something that we see are that women are lacking more than men. We tend to actually write with the heart and not be very like strategic with the right word that needs to be put to make sure that we can actually rise in the list of candidates. And then I will quickly, as I'm seeing the timing as well, I will speed up. I can talk about the role and impact of AI. In a nutshell, if you have some idea about AI and how AI works, AI is being built based on data. Uh, AI needs to be trained on data, and data comes from the history of behaviors and sales and interaction. So let's take the example of a company. If a company wants to use an AI to screen their candidates, they will actually take the data from all the candidates they had throughout their history. They will see who was successful, who was not successful, and they will train the algorithm based on this data. So historically, if the company only hired men, for instance, for a certain type of job, then the algorithm will actually favor men. So because of our history in society, well, we have more data for men than for women. So it also has an impact on AI. So it's important that we also focus on the ethics of AI, because right now AI is actually discriminating more women than men if it's not being transparent and if the ethics in AI hasn't been validated. And last but not least, when you do a job application, how many of you already had an interview where the recruiter had an interview scorecard? I never had one. So all the interviews were like chatting and everything. But what does that mean? It means that you can have some bias as well. The recruiter can have some bias. If you actually go along with the recruiter, then good for you. You might actually have higher chances to be taken. But if you and the recruiter don't actually, connect on some level, but you might be the best person for the role, the recruiter will have a bias, a proximity bias, an affinity bias, an affinity bias that might actually impact you negatively. So there is no interview scorecard to actually ensure the objectivity of the first step with the company, which is the job application. Second is a salary negotiation. We lack some salary data. We tend to actually undervalue us because we are fearing of asking too much, and there is no clear view from the start given by the company on the career evolution and the promotion plan. So we are actually just like swimming in completely unknown waters, and we're just hoping to get the best that we can. But it's very rare that I can really I can see a company being transparent on the salary average, on the career evolution and promotion plan. So again, it's not made for us to actually thrive in this process. Last but not least, performance review. Well, how do you want to actually make sure that you have all the chances in your corner to ask for promotion when you're given the opportunity only once a year? This opportunity and performance review follows actually an evaluation grid. As we know today, this evaluation grid does not does not give this 360 view of your performances, because again, performance is not only linked with profit, is not only linked with, for instance, the objective that you have met. But let's say that you're somebody who supports so many people in your team. You have retained people in your team for like, I don't know, like throughout crisis. You have you have brought new clients in from another from the outside from outside the sales funnel, for instance. All these things are not truly valued and are not part of the evaluation grid, so it does not play in our favor as well. There is no platform to investigate open position. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you actually want to be promoted, and if you want to actually see which roles are available, there is no, for the majority of companies, of course, not, I'm not making a generality, but for the majority of companies, there is no clear space where all the open positions are listed and where you can actually apply internally. You need to have your little network, and in French we call it copinage. You need to actually make some friends in the company to make sure that you might actually find a job in advance before others and apply, below the actual formal process. And then last but not least, promotion often not objective, as I just said. How many times have we heard people actually going for lunch and buying gifts to ensure that a promotion can actually be led from these initiatives. So my point is, after all these comments, that we are the only one who can change our own narrative. I'm very happy today to actually be here and talk about it, because I just want to say, don't wait for people, don't wait for people to actually promote you, don't wait for your company to see your value, don't wait for others to actually go to the management and be your sponsors. Don't wait for that. We have no time to wait. We have been waiting for how many years? I know I might sound like a bit pissed, but I'm not pissed. I'm just very enthusiastic and very energetic. So I'm not pissed at all, but I'm also tired of waiting. We've been waiting for how many years? I mean, we were only able to, open a bank account here in America. I think women Americans were only able to open a bank account in 1984 without their husband consent or father figure. I mean, come on, it's getting too slow. So at some point, if we want to actually be promoted in our lifetime, then we need to actually ask it ourselves. Yep. So my tips are definitely use data. Use data, because actually nothing beats data. If you can, and let's talk, Vanessa, about this fact base, because indeed, I mean, you're being maybe backlash for being too fact based, because this is not what we expect from you. But we also know that nothing can beat facts. So we are screwed, because if your facts are right, we can't do anything but just accept the fact that you are outperforming, that you're doing things better, but we don't like it. So data for me has been key in my entire journey. It's been key when I'm talking to investors. It's been key when I'm talking to clients. It's been key when I'm talking to even people that I want to incubate in my programs. Data is key. Know your worth, but in a data manner. Okay, what it means that you need to start thinking about what is my skill and how can I value my skill? How can percentage, statistic, money come out of my skills? How can how can I calculate the worth of this, but in a data-driven manner? Okay, so check the skills that you have. Keep records of your skills from the performance review, for instance, from all these documents that you have in the company, and compare it with the company skill repository. What is a skill repository? Every company in the HR department actually has a list of all the skills, all the roles, all the occupations that they have internally, and they have some kind of grid where they calculate the salary based on your expertise, and the expertise are based on the skills. So everything is linked, everything is listed, and should be made available and transparent. So ask for this transparency, ask for this actual skill repository and evaluation grid, so you can see, based on the skills that they are looking for, how much they are paying for this, and how much do you already have to actually be valued in the role that you're targeting. Okay, so that would be really my main advice for today. It's really like, stop using your own perseverance skills and trying to find your way by yourself. Find the right data and put data in front of everybody to make sure that there is no doubt around what you have done, who you are, and what you can do. Second advice would be to find a male mentor. So that was the big advice, like, go and find know your worth. But then, yeah, if you can find a male mentor, it will definitely be helpful as well. It's sad that we still need somehow a male mentor, but I definitely believe in mentorship and in sponsorship. And finding a male figure to actually be next to you will give you tips, will give you advice, will give you strength as well to actually back up maybe this feeling stereotypes that can be on your shoulders. Find out about the targeted role requirements and build your own case. It's a bit linked to the data aspect where at some point, as I mentioned, every company had the job templates. So they know exactly what skills they're looking for to promote somebody or to hire somebody. Find these requirements, find out about the skills requirements that the role is asking for. And with the case that you have built, then you can actually compare, and then you can go to the person in charge and tell them, look, this is what you require, this is what I have, this is what I've shown, these are my results, these are my objectives, etc. Then there's nothing again that the person will be able to say. In brackets, of course, if you're facing a manager or like someone in the company who's against you somehow and who is harassing you and blocking you, then it's another level of conversation, and we didn't have the chance and the time to actually go through it today. But just know that you have also some support in Europe. At least we have some support from Europe, from the Belgian state, against these kind of harassment, and I think you shouldn't stay in this unless you really need to, but you shouldn't stay in a company where you're not valued, definitely. But yeah, it's another conversation. Monitor your performance against targeted objective. It's we already talked about it. Attend the decision-making meetings. It's a bit tougher. We talked about a seat at the table, right? So having a seat doesn't mean that you will have a voice, but at least if you have a seat, you know what they're talking about, and you can make sure that you are aligned with their narrative, and that will be very helpful in the long run. Network and nurture relationship. As we said, we in our society, there's a lot of networking going on, and sometimes stuff happen under the table in an informal way. So if you can also build your network within your firm, within your professional sphere, it will definitely help you out. It's been 3 years for real, full time, that I decided to go on my own and follow my ambitions. And the first thing I've done is it's work on my network, and it has paid off so far. It's really something that will definitely help you at one point in your life. So please go out and network. We might have some introverts here in the room. Networking is not for extroverts. Networking is for everybody. You have some strategy that you can apply if you're not comfortable in talking to people. If you want to talk about it further down, let me know. We can definitely stay in touch, and I can share some resources. But network and make sure that you nurture your relationships, because at some point we all need somebody in our lives. Be proactive in your requests. I just said it right before. Don't wait for shit to happen. Make sure that you can make it happen yourself. So be proactive. Don't be scared to actually ask for what you deserve. Okay, it can be for a salary raise. It can be for the open position within the company. It can be for if you're a CEO, it can be for like new funds or call for tenders, subsidies, grants, whatever you need. Just go for it. Same for the clients. I mean, at some point, I just to give you also a bit of my background. When I came back from London, because I studied in London, I had no master degree, and my Dutch level was very low. It has impacted me when I was looking for a job here in Belgium. I sent hundreds of CVs. I had no reply, zero. 100 of CV, zero reply. So at some point, I stopped sending my CV through LinkedIn. I started to show up at people's places in front of their office, asking for the CEO and trying to meet directly with the CEO. I started taking my phone and calling people directly, because they could not hang up on my face directly, because they were actually a bit shy to do it. So at some point, force your way. That's my message. Force your way. You have nothing to lose. What will be the worst that can happen? You will still wake up the next day, and you will still need to actually make it through the next day. So yeah, let's just stop this fear from today, and let's just go for what we want. And last but not least, if your company has a training budget and career development plan, which normally every single company should have, then just go and ask for it. What is my training budget? How much can I spend to do what? What is the next role available for me based on what I'm doing right now? How should I how can I actually reach that target, and make sure that people are supporting you with that. And Hanan, I'm done. That's my last slide. I just wanted to share a small quote for you, but only those who dare may fly. I think it's important, again, that from today, I'm sure that all of you has already dared in their life. Well, let's make sure that we dare even more. There's no time to waste. Take what you deserve. And now it's time for the Q&A discussion.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much, Leila. It was really an inspiring talk. Use data, know your worth. I think those are the two things that we have to take from this webinar. And yes, I would love to show my slides as well, Leila. So if we can handle this,
Yep.
this. All right, perfect.
I've just published quickly, Hannah. Just published the poll for the occupation. If you can quickly just answer the occupation poll, so I know if I was
Yes,
actually aligned with with what people wanted to hear. If we had more employees, entrepreneurs, academics, and then we can
perfect.
actually go through questions. Thank you, everyone. Oh, thank you, Liana.
Don't hesitate already if you have questions to put them in the chat. I know there were already some questions that were answered, or some comments, statements that were answered during the talk, but don't hesitate now if you have some. Leila is still here with us for a bit to be able to answer them. All right. Perfect. I think most of the results for the poll are in.
Yep, and
All
it's
right.
very split, very diverse.
Indeed. I will close the poll. So we would love to have your feedback on what do you think on about the webinar. And so I will share my slide, and we would love, as I said, to have your feedback. So please take out your phone and scan this QR code so that we can further improve the webinars. Do we want to have webinars that are in this format? Do we want to have webinars that are maybe a bit more interactive? So yes, we would love to have your insights on that as well. All right, I'm quickly checking questions now. So there's a question from Vanessa. Could you share tips for females getting funding and networking?
I'm currently actually, and just send the message. One of my truly good friend has launched the Impact Shakers Fund. She is based in Ghent here. She has so many resources that I can share. She's focused on funding the underrepresented funders, and she's all about impact investment. So I will share everything with you, Vanessa. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and I'll see how I can best support with your need for networking and funding.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. We do have a last poll, Krishna, if I'm not mistaken, because so this is the fourth episode of the Female Leadership series. We have a fifth episode that is preparing, which is called How to Build and Leverage Your Network for Success, led by Jinyaza, another one of our community members. And then we'll already be in March, our last episode. And for the last episode, we're still trying to figure out what kind of webinars we want to do. And we actually want your input on that. So in here, we have the question for a fine episode: what kind of format would you like? Would you like a webinar where you listen to, get inspired, learn from an expert, or would you like to participate as well in the discussions and have more of a roundtable kind of webinar? So please let us know as well. We hope you have loved this format, but we're looking also forward to maybe testing some other formats. So here we go. I think we have a few of the answers already in. All right. Perfect. I will leave that to the side. And meanwhile, so thank you, Leila, again very much for the really incredible webinar. And if you guys are still available to chat a bit, we will be waiting for you in the chat rooms. Krishna will normally now, create the chat room. So in the next few seconds, you'll be all sent into certain rooms. And by the way, it's an unusual room, so you will have actually to use your left and your right button on your keyboard to be able to move. But yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up in those little chat rooms. So thank you all for joining. We hope you really appreciated the session. And Leila, thanks again, and see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. And Julia, for your question, we can actually connect on LinkedIn, so I can actually get back to you as well. Because I'm sorry, I will have to leave you right now, but I will come back to you with every question. Julia, I'm adding you on LinkedIn right now. Thank you so much, Hanan, for the invitation. Thank you so much to every participant, and I'm looking forward to keep this conversation going. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Visit community.eithealth.eu to join our community and shape the healthcare landscape with us. For more such videos, subscribe to our channel.